Hello, I am Michael Drinda, and I am joined once again by,
Greg Skirman,
and
and this
this
is
is episode
episode
five
five.
of the
Got to
Ripples
five.
podcast. We got to five. I think 10. 10 is the thing where you figure out if you're going to pursue it long term or not. And given that I have two podcasts that have far exceeded that, I think let's add a third into the mix.
Yeah, for sure. Sure. So what's up, mate? It's been a big week for you.
All right, what do you got going on over there?
What
Huge
have I
week
got
for
going
me.
over
It
here?
was yeah, huge week for me. So that will probably take up some time. But what have you got going on over there?
Yeah, so I had a really big, unexpectedly big February, actually. So I think a few episodes ago, I was sort of lamenting a little bit about the grind to try and find clients. And then I had a bunch just all come out of the woodwork all at once. So I think February I landed, I want to say five. And just working through the sort of engagements with them at the moment. I've had a couple of conversations already with some of them. Two of them are developers who, off their own sort of back, needed some advice, which I think is kind of where I wanted to. Like that was kind of the ideal positioning, right? I kind of trying to help individual people out.
Help individuals.
Not that I don't mind helping companies out as well, but I mean they're very different engagements, right? When you're dealing with an individual about their career or the challenges that they're actively facing versus like a business that's trying to undergo some kind of transformation. Yeah, so I kind of filled my bucket in February in terms of what capacity I have, given full-time employment at Isaac Plant and family obligations and all of those things. And I'm March now. I'm trying to fill up my April pipeline a little bit. It's been a bit slow. My network is not huge by the standards of most people in the community. I think I have less than 200 followers on Twitter. So if anyone wants to fix that for me, that'd be great. I'm not paying for blue. I'm sorry, Aaron. I know blue checks are the rule now, but I'm not doing that. And I think my LinkedIn sort of network was sort of, high 500s. And I guess it'd be interesting to see whether or not other people in the space who aren't trying to sort of actively promote themselves to the community have a similar sort of experience. But the overwhelming majority of my LinkedIn following HR managers and recruiters, because I'm a hiring manager, they're trying to, they're either trying to poach me out or they're trying to land my business.
People for you.
Yeah. So went on a bit of a tear last week, little bit of automation to try and identify the kinds of people that I want to talk to in the sort of 2 and 3 connections removed space on LinkedIn. Ended up putting myself in LinkedIn connection jail because I tried to add like 200 people to me. Sorry if everyone's out there. But I think it's helped. I mean, these are, regardless of whether or not they turn into any professional engagement or not, having a network that's kind of more aligned to the people who want to hear my message is, I think, way better than sort of screaming into the wind to a bunch of recruiters who are going to go, that sounds really interesting, but I have no idea what he's talking about. So
for sure.
Just trying to rebalance my network a little bit so that it's kind of more aligned to being a subject matter expert in this space. And then had a company reach out to me around potentially sponsoring the next Brisbane Laravel meetup. Started some early conversations regarding a space for that. We're really going to try and use the space we used last time, which is the Brisbane Amazon office. They have a really awesome training room that has 2 synchronized projectors, and it's all rigged for sound and light and all that kind of stuff. And it's a classroom, so they use it for their internal training, and they use it for so it's Amazon, the business, and then AWS, the business, also use the space to deliver their workshops and stuff. So I found the space years ago because I was at a AWS workshop, and it's a really good space because there's tables. They let us kind of eat pizza in the room because there's tables and there's less risk that people are going to drop it on the carpet. And it's got magnificent views over the Brisbane River. Like, you couldn't ask for a better spot, to be honest. So nice. Hopefully they weren't too put off by us using the space last time, and they will let us use it again. We've got a couple of other potential options, some like co-working spaces that have, auditoriums and things that we may potentially use if they don't come to the party. But yeah, we're trying to get that together, trying to do that in April, I think. I'm hustling a little bit to try and get a couple of speakers. I'm trying to get so Jess Archer helps us out a little bit with the sort of organization. She's also like our perennial MC, but she's also like crazy mad busy at the moment with like Laravel 11 release and stuff. So like it's all got to kind of line up a little bit with her time on that front. But yeah, I'm really hopeful that we can start getting some more Brisbane representation in the sort of speaker mix. And I think we've mentioned it before. I think that local meetups, particularly Laravel meetups, are a great way of identifying and pipelining potential speakers for the main event in November, which you just announced with your Flash New Marketing.
Did indeed. Flash New Marketing. It's the secret with the Flash New Marketing is that it is only temporary marketing as well. So there's more to come on that front. But yeah, we announced on Tuesday. I was kind of in two minds about it because Laravel 11 was releasing on Tuesday. And I was like, oh, do I kind of delay it so as to not get swallowed up by the Laravel 11 wave? But we'd already kind of pushed it a week because we were trying to finalize some bits and pieces around sponsorship materials and reaching out to sponsors. So they had a bit of a heads up from, the general public that, hey, we're doing this again. This is when we're doing it, and putting some details in their hands just to give them some extra time to kind of digest what we were doing. And I think like it's been okay. We sent out a mail out on Tuesday, and then we had a pretty good click-through rate on that. It was 65-ish%, which I think partly was owed to the fact that I hadn't fully set up DNS records, which Gmail and Microsoft and Yahoo and that, they're all kind of a bit more aggressive about now if you don't have the relevant things. So we were sending as a laracon.au email address, but didn't have that stuff in place. There's two separate places. We moved to ConvertKit this year as well, just to get a little bit more automation around sequencing of emails and segmentation and things like that, and also being able to to send previous emails automatically to new subscribers as well, which just helps keep everyone in the loop and not miss out on any of that information as we go through, and gives us some better opportunities in the future. So good content marketing kind of thought process there, something you might look into. And while I still remember, you mentioned that you'd been doing the LinkedIn stuff to try and build the audience. I think for you, because you've got a modest Twitter following and like a different kind of following on LinkedIn, I wonder if taking some of the stuff that you talked about at Laracon AU last year and start putting out some written content and doing a bit of content marketing that way, so people kind of have a taste of what you have to say without, I guess, sending them the link to the video. To just say, like, go and spend 30 minutes of your time to do this. Well, no, here's a 5-minute read that you can go through and quickly get a taste of what we're doing. And then you put, you ask in there, join my mailing list for more information, or email here if you want to contact me, like, just to make it a bit clear and to kind of give something in order to get something back in return.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the content marketing side of things, definitely something I need to look at. Like February was very organic. So I think there was more inbound than outbound in terms of, like, there wasn't a lot of prospecting going on. Beyond sort of just letting people know that I'm doing it. But most of it, probably definitely more than half of it was inbound inquiry. And so I think it's a bit deceptive if you get a lot of inbound inquiry early on, because you're just like, oh, I can just like easy mode this and people will come to me. But, you very, very quickly torch your network in terms of, the people in your network who are going to be interested in it are going to reach out to you. And then that's it. That's the end of that cup is empty at that point, which is part of the motivation in growing the network a bit too. But yeah, content marketing has definitely been on my mind, or slicing up some of the hot takes out of the talk a little bit. I mean, the talk is like the primary marketing piece, if there is even a marketing piece. It's like, hey, I talked about this. By the way, the nature of it being a 30-minute talk is that it's pretty reductive. Like, it just has to be.
I mean,
you
you've got
know,
7 dot points there, and minimum 7 pieces of content that you can write and
mm,
then put
yeah,
out into the world, so that you can keep referring back to that. But on the
mm,
back of that, it also gives the opportunity for new ideas that you want to explore, or new ideas to kind of start pushing that out, and that, I think, will help you as you flesh out future talk ideas as well, and future content, to kind of see
yeah,
what does and doesn't resonate, and then what you can bring into your mentoring. But also, I know that you tweeted the other day that you've submitted for speaking at Laracon AU again this year. So,
hmm
to really help flesh out some of those views.
no mentions of mint slice, but there might
I
be
should
some
hope not.
avocados.
Yeah, so I think that serves two purposes. One is to keep putting your content out there so that people can see that it's solid advice, that you're willing to give a little bit, rather than just say, look, I'll tell you. And like, I know that you're willing to talk to people in short bursts and things like that, but
Mm,
giving away some of that content for free, um, which you've
yeah,
already done, right? It's not like you're giving away anything that isn't already available from you in public in the form of that talk. But I think there's certainly an avenue to take like each of those 7 points and turn it into 7 blog posts, or you know 14 blog posts if you do. This is what I covered in the talk. Here's a bit of a follow up to some aspect of
mm,
it based on the conversations that you had. Like, I think that would be a really powerful way for you to kind of put your content out there and for it to be visible, um,
yeah,
and something to kind of feed that. Because we were talking about it just before we hit record, is that, yeah, you had a lot of that organic stuff come through, and it was a lot of inbound in February, but because you then spent most of, or in January, I suppose, and then because you spent a lot of February doing the actual coaching and figuring out how you're going to do that, and then doing it, you didn't have that time that you spent in January, in February, to then
yeah,
market for new leads. And so now you kind of gone, oh, there's nothing. So there's the more that you can kind of automate the content, that top of funnel thing, um then the easier it's going to be to kind of have that trickle through into something
yeah,
that's a bit more sustainable than going, oh, I'm halfway through March, and like, it's been a bit dry, and I've got to kind of scramble to fill April. Otherwise, you will get quite demotivated by it, I think, and it'll fall off. Like, I know that you've made good inroads into the goals that you set yourself for what you want to do in 2024. But I think you could also fall into the trap of resting on those laurels, that like, I've hit a
oh,
chunk of it
yeah,
already, and it's going to be easy to make up the rest of it, and it might just fall off completely, and then you don't do it, and then the
yeah,
demotivation will come faster than the motivation, for sure.
yeah. The other thing too is that like the standard offering is like 5 1 hour conversations over a period of 5 months. So
Hmm.
um, or 5 fortnights, depending on the speed that the people being coached want to go through. So
Hmm.
like there's still plenty of like actual work to do, like all the way through to May. But it's kind of about at least pipelining leads so that come May I can, because I mean I don't expect everyone's going to renew.
Hmm.
I hope that people are getting value and do end up renewing, but um, you know I am at capacity sort of for what I can do. Well, not completely at capacity. That's a bit of a, I've left some sort of slack in there.
Hmm.
But, I don't necessarily want to be like pulling in 5 new starts every month, because by month
Right.
5, that's 25 people, 25 conversations, and there just isn't enough time. But it's kind of
Yeah.
the interesting challenge is trying to figure out how to make it sustainable, and then also how to protect the time that I've got available so that I can sort of bring my best self to those conversations, that I'm,
Hmm.
you know, able to, like, because you have to, over a period of 5 conversations, you have to kind of hold the context about what the
Yeah.
overall conversation is, and you sort of worry a little bit that if you end up with a really big book, that
There's too many. Yeah.
you just can't,
Got to
and you
take
can't
notes,
give,
and yeah, you got to keep the continuity about, this is the program, but like, this
yeah,
is, everything's slightly different for every person. That's the whole point of the tailored coaching. So yeah,
mm,
keeping extensive notes on what those conversations are, or even recording them so you can refer back to them.
mm,
Using AI as the craze to transcribe it and summarize the
yeah,
conversations and things like all of these kinds of things that you could do later. And like,
mm,
I understand the perspective of like, I don't want to have too many, but someone might get sick or fall off, or for whatever reason they can't do something.
mm,
And rather than going, well, now that I've got a free slot, and then going, you know, can I sending the tweets out, LinkedIn posts out, whatever I was saying, can I fill this slot? It's like, no, I've got someone in the funnel already. I'll just tap them and say, hey, I've had a slot free up. Do you want to start, a week early or whatever, and see if you can make it work that way. So yeah, I get the perspective. It's just, I want you to succeed in what you're doing, because I think what you've got to say is valuable for the audience that you are looking to communicate with. And like the early indication is that you have something that people do actually find valuable. It's just keeping the motivation there, because the motivation will get you going, and it's like the repetition and actually doing it that will keep it sustainable.
Yeah. The other thing too is that, like, early on when you're sort of starting something new, like, I wasn't sure that it was going to like land, right? I thought, I think I had one person who was interested to start with, who they may have even seeded the idea in my head a long time ago, to be honest. And it's like, you can make the mistake, I think, of going and registering a domain and standing up a blog and setting up, ConvertKit and all of these things, and then it's only one person, right? So you kind of made this massive investment. And then when you get a bit of a hot start, you then don't have the time to go back and do that. So finding the right moment to actually go and invest your time in that is, it's tricky. And it's definitely something. And like, in months where it's quiet, where I am sort of pipelining, that's kind of what I need to be doing it, when I'm not like up to my gills in work and coaching engagements. But it's been a bit of a slow month on that front. The good news is that if anyone has seen what I've been doing and is interested, my April is wide open. So
and this is the thing, like, if it's a bit of a slow month, you might write 7 blog posts now, but you can put one out this week and one out in 2 weeks and 2 after that. Like, you've got that pipeline of content. And if you find that something's dying off, or that there's something has come up, out of that schedule, then you can, either bring something forward or insert some new content, out of turn or whatever. I think it's just going to be important to kind of do that. And I'm not going to find who it is now. I'll see if I can remember to put it in the show notes, but there is a creator on, I think it's Convert. Basically, they have this evergreen newsletter, right? And everyone that signs up gets like the first one and then the second one a day later. And like, it just keeps going. And every time they come up with a new piece of content, they just stick it on the end, and then everyone will get it. And everyone that has signed up, halfway through or whatever else, will eventually get that content. And it kind of means that, I'm not saying put the money into that now. I think ConvertKit, though, has a free tier up to some number of subscribers. So it's something that you can look at. Whether or not you use that to deliver the content is up to you. Or if it's just like, a blog is going to be the easiest way for you to just spin something up quickly that you can put content out there. And you can always take those blog posts and put them into an email sequence later and be like, they live on this thing where it's like you pay some sum of money, $100, $200, whatever, and you get like everything that has ever been written and that ever will be written. And and then you get the word of mouth machine feeding that. So, it depends on the approach you want to take. But yeah, I think while it's still there in your head and it's fresh, relatively fresh from last year, I'd say turn that stuff into blog posts and write them, and then have them ready to release, basically, so that you can.
I mean, the good thing is that
if nothing else.
The good thing is that there's already a truckload of speaker notes on the back of that presentation, right? So, like, I mean, most of it's bullet points and not terribly well crafted into a narrative, but they're just kind of like prompts and reminders about things I actually had to talk about. So, between that and running AI over the presentation itself is probably the bones of blog posts there, without a huge amount of effort in terms of sitting down and typing. Like, writing is not something that I'm like super good at. I mean, I know it's just practice, right? It's you're not good at it until you are. But yeah, there's definitely you're right. Most of the work's already been done, and I think it's important too. And this is probably something that anyone who is thinking of submitting for Laracon AU could probably learn from, is that you put a lot of effort into those talks, and then finding ways that you can rehash and reuse that content that you've put so much effort into is crucial. I mean, for me, it's kind of a hook. It's like, hey, I do this thing, go and watch this half-hour talk, and if you think that, it'd be useful, or you just think I'm a little bit crazy and you'd like to spend a bit of money to figure out just how crazy, I also offer this.
I mean,
But yeah,
also
I think
the other side of that is if someone is going to sit and watch that 30-minute thing and they still want to proceed with it, then you know that they're more invested in it. Blog post is easier to kind of skim. Whereas if I've sat and watched 30 minutes and I have questions about X, Y, and Z of points 3 and 5, then
yeah,
but I think putting it into written form is the way to go.
yeah,
At
for
least
sure.
in these early stages, just so that it's available, so you can point someone and say, "Here you go." And then I had a friend of mine who's a UX engineer that I worked with a number of years ago, and he got made redundant a couple of weeks ago. And I saw him post on LinkedIn the other day saying that he wants to put himself out there on LinkedIn and like grow his audience, but he feels like the ick about it. It's like because it's a self-serving thing. And I said you have to look at it at a different way. This is not about monetization, because people have been on the internet long enough, especially like your audience that you want to attract. They've been on the internet long enough that if they know that your end goal is monetization or your primary goal is monetization, they're less likely to want to be interested in what you have to say than if you're wanting to genuinely help people. And we've seen that in our community time and time again. Like Adam Wallin is where he is now, right? Tailwind mogul, because of the time that he invested and all of the content he created and the conversations that he had on his podcast and all of the stuff that he gave away for the longest time. Like it's the goodwill that you build up with the free stuff that you do that makes people more inclined to want to be interested in your paid offerings. And at the end of the day, we all need to make money to survive, right? So we're not kidding ourselves that money is not a motivator, but if money is your primary motivator, especially when you're giving away content, then I think it's people, it's a little bit more opaque and people see straight through that. So I said to him, like, you have to genuinely want to help people, and giving some stuff away for free that is a taste of like this is where we're heading is kind of the way to go about it. And like as I said, we've seen it time and time again. Aaron, who spoke about it on Mostly Technical, the layoff episode that just came out this week or last week at the
What a
time
roller
that this
coaster.
podcast comes out. Yeah, but like he got let go, but it's all of the goodwill that he's built up over the last 2 years, all of the not being cynical, being being a cheerleader for the community, that came back to him in droves, not just from the Laravel community but from all across the web. Job offers, support, kind words, it was all sincerity that unless you're willing to put in the work yourself in being the sins. This is not to get biblical, but like treat others how you want to be treated is what that all comes down
Oh,
to.
100%. Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's certainly an approach there for you to take, and whether or not you want to, it's like obviously it's entirely up to you. But I think it's a good foundation to use what you have and to test future content as well, because you're probably not going to speak at Brisbane Laravel about whatever you might submit to Laracon AU. I think that the audience, it's Laravel, or but a meetup audience is more looking for meat and potatoes kind of stuff around this new feature in the framework, or talking about the changes in Laravel 11 or whatever else. Whereas Laracon, we have that kind of audience that is broad reaching. And some feedback that we got last year was that they took it back to their work where they're an agency. And it was like, it's a Laravel conference. It's called Laracon, but there was stuff there across the spectrum for UX people, for, accessibility, for design, for, whatever else. And like, you can bring your whole team, not just your programmers, to the conference. So, and we try and foster that as much as we can, because there is such a broad spectrum of people in the Laravel community that come to those things. So it's you've got to cater to not all of them, but like 80% of them. You want to have a good cross section of stuff, and
You
the
also
early
can't have
submissions.
You
Sorry,
can't have a 2-day you can't have a 2-day conference where it's just meat and potatoes, right? Because
despite what people have told me in the past, and despite what people have told me in the past and what they think, you cannot sit there for 2 days in a single track conference of just wall to wall technical talks. You cannot absorb that. the brain is not made to absorb that for the majority of people. In a
Yeah, for
multi-track
sure.
conference, multi-track, multi-day conference, you're not going to see every talk. And I guarantee you're not going to sit in 2 days of technical only talks at a multi-track conference. You're going to go and see something interesting. And the thing is that we always find that we have found, in our 3 events that we've had, in the US events that I've been to, is that sometimes you sit in it like you're quote unquote forced to sit through a talk that is not technical, that you don't want to, and then you come away going, oh, I've learned something. It's not like I've learned something technical. It's I've learned something about myself. I've learned something about something I didn't know about. The accessibility talks that we put on, Nina's talk that we had was, just talking about a whole other perspective that we don't see if you just mainline technical talks for 2 days. And like, people fall asleep. You cannot, especially on the second day after dark and late nights and whatever else. You cannot properly focus on the talks.
Well, the other thing
and if
too
you
is
can,
with
you
purely
are. Even if you actually genuinely can, I'm not saying there aren't people out there. I'm saying even if you actually genuinely can do that, you are still going to be a minority of the audience. We looked last year, we had 65% something first timers. Not to say that they're, junior developers, but 65% of the people attended for the first time. And
that
that
may have been
was
their first conference ever, right? Like,
yeah, there's not a lot of choice for PHP conferences in Australia. And like Laracon EU was 80% first timers as well. Now,
wow.
I don't know, is it because there's been such a gap between the conferences and like people that were doing PHP that were like big in the community that were coming back year on year, they've left? Is it, are the people, I don't know what the reason is, but, we had 65% of people at Laracon AU last year that were there for the first time. I hope to see 65% new people again this year, but I also hope to see that we have second timers, third timers, fourth timers, that that we are putting on something of value to people that, like, yes, they do want to come back and they want to see their friends, they want to learn some things, they want to network and have a bit of fun. We try and do a lot, and we're going to do like a whole lot more this year.
Yeah, there's some exciting stuff coming.
There's some very good things. We will be talking about them in the coming weeks. If you missed, like, I know that we buried the lead 28 minutes, but if you missed the announcement this week, Laracon AU is in Brisbane this year, Queensland, so Greg's hometown. I'll come and visit you personally, and on the 7th and 8th of November. So it's Thursday, Friday again. We have said if you go to laracon.au now, we've said basically if you're planning to book your travel now without any other information about tickets or the conference schedule or anything else like that, you want to get your flights early, we do recommend that you get in on Wednesday the 6th by about 5 p.m. because there's going to be a pre-conference networking event, and then leave after 8 p.m. on Friday the 8th. Really leave on Saturday. Don't rush out on Friday night, because we'll have a post-conference networking event, a little bit more chill, a little bit more quiet than what After Dark will be on Thursday night, which is the spectacular. We're going to have, you don't have to book accommodation if you want to, then by all means do it, but we will have I think 8 properties from 2 different operators, all within like a 30-minute walk of the conference venue this year. And all the pricing there's discounted pricing, so everything will be sub $200 a night, except for I think 2 of the properties, which were $240-ish or something like that. So I think reasonable, certainly cheaper than accommodation was in Sydney last year. So there will be more to come in the coming weeks as we start to put out more information and kind of dance around Laracon India at the end of this month or next week, 23rd, 24th. And then, we'll roll some more stuff out between Laracon India and Laracon US in August. But yeah, speaker submissions open now. I know that you've got one in. We've received some. I think maybe we didn't really communicate that was the case, that the speaker submissions were open, but we'll do some more marketing around that, certainly in the coming weeks as well.
How are they looking? Got some interesting ones already, or
I've got some interesting ones.
Inbox closed.
Yeah, no, I've looked at like how many we've received more so than what we received. I've had a couple of people reach out to me directly and they're like, what kind of talk do you want? Don't ask me that question. I don't know. I will not know what kind of talk I want until I see all of the submissions and I can piece it together. It's I don't know how to explain it. It really is a gut feel kind of thing. I kind of look at what Laracon US does and Laracon EU does and kind of piece together similar types of talks. So, if they have like 16 technical talks and 2 non-technical, or, 14 and 4 or whatever like I try and maintain the ratios just to kind of keep the experience the same. But in terms of like, should I talk about APIs or should I talk about front end or should I talk about, I don't know. If I knew what was going to be good as a topic, I would be a speaker and not a conference organizer. So, um, yeah, I know it when I see it. But I've got three speakers locked already. I have one very, very good sounding talk that I spoke to someone yesterday, and that I think they'll be a good fit. So that's potentially 4 that we've got locked away. The CFP is open until the 17th of May. We will have picked all of our speakers by the 31st of May. That doesn't mean that we will be waiting until the 17th of May. We kind of just as we go, as we see things, especially for international speakers, we try and lock them in earlier because 1, we have limited spots, and 2, the earlier you book an international flight, the cheaper it's going to be for you. So
there's also visa considerations and
visa, all of that kind of stuff. And like people that are traveling internationally may bring family, they may want to stay longer. There's all those kinds of things that they need to consider. That someone that's flying up from Sydney or Perth or whatever, like they don't really, because it's a much shorter trip. It's a much easier thing. I do encourage people to stay in Brisbane, for a few days, have a bit of fun. I think November will be, it's a bit more mild in terms of the climate. And like there's tons to see and do. We'll have a whole bunch of information around like the things that you can do outside of the conference so that you don't have to necessarily do your own holiday planning. We've got lots of information.
Quick trip down the highway to like the Gold Coast or the theme parks.
Yeah,
something a bit more chill. Head north up to Sunshine.
Come with your family or whatever. Yeah, if you come with your family and that you do stuff in Brisbane there, and then you head down on the weekend for a trip to Dreamworld or Movie World on Saturday, and then head home Sunday. Sounds great to me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see it come through. I think I started. I know other people have pitched you the idea of Brisbane probably since the start of Laracon AU, I guess. But I when I got wind of the fact that you were potentially losing Monkey Bar, I kind of heavily got behind it. So
I think it makes
Brisbane's
sense.
kind of rolling out the red carpet a little bit too, just to like maybe.
Yeah, I think also the fact that we had, I think 6 or 7 speakers were from Brisbane last year. So
if we count Josh, so
you, Josh, Samuel. Jess,
Lorraine.
There was one other, Lorraine. Yeah. Who's the other one? Or maybe 5 or 6. So we had like a good representation from Brisbane. And yeah, as you say, Brisbane did roll out the red carpet in terms of the people that I spoke with there, not only at the venue but like Brisbane City that you put me on contact with. They made me feel pretty good about moving. Not just moving from Sydney, but moving to Brisbane specifically. So, yeah, it's good that it's all out there, and I don't have to keep the secret anymore. There's still, we haven't announced where the venue is, so you haven't missed that information. It just hasn't been communicated yet. So we'll get that out in the coming weeks.
It's insanely central, though. Like very easy to get to. Yeah,
yeah.
And Brisbane's like really well connected with public transport, particularly around where the venue is. Like. So you'll have options for getting around.
Kitty Cat, you can cruise the Brisbane River, you can bus, you can walk. Like as I said, all of the conference, all of the hotels that we're partnered with this year are like the nearest one is a 5-minute walk, the furthest one is a 30-minute walk. So lots and lots and lots of good, reasonably priced, I think, options. So
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Like, just catching up with everyone again. Like,
yeah, it'll be good, and we'll make it possible for you to actually catch up with people, not like see them at the conference and then go back to your hotel and then see them again at the conference. Like, as I said, pre-conference Wednesday, there's going to be. It's not out. Like, we will have facilitated something. It'll be user pays to play, but there'll be drink specials. There'll be food options and things like that for people to do that. We'll do that Wednesday. Thursday will be after dark. Friday we've got a on site at the venue. We're gonna have a 5 till 8 thing, and then there'll be another like after dark, tangential event as well that you'll be able to go to and just hang out with people, and then go home on Saturday,
cool.
please.
No, it's really really cool, and I've been privileged enough to kind of see a little bit about how the sausage gets made, and I'm very very excited. I mean, Sydney was great. Like, last year was awesome. Last year was like, I've been to a handful of conferences in various different sort of verticals over the years, and like Larricon's definitely like way up there, especially given the fact that like it's not done on like an AWS reInvent kind of budget. It's
right,
but like in terms of community, in terms of like the sort of quality of the speakers and so on, I think from the stuff that I know about what's going on in November in Brisbane, it's definitely like a step change. Like, it's going to be big.
I have definitely busted the spice weasel out of cupboard for this one. We are stepping it up a notch.
Yeah, awesome. All right, man. I think that's 40 minutes. Do we want to?
We will wrap it up here.
Wrap up. So we haven't had anyone on today. That's not to say that we don't have a couple of really cool people who do want to come and talk to us. It's just time zones and people doing conferencing all around the world. Michael's actually managed to get 2 people who debuted at Laracon last year to do the Grand Slam in their first year, which I think's like, I think Risa and Daniel both Grand Slam this year, which is like, that's awesome. Yep. The year starts with Laracon AU. It's alphabetical.
Yeah, we're not the last event of the year. We're the first event of the year.
Yeah, it's like a season.
That's it.
The summer of Laravel. So yeah, that's really really cool. So we've got a couple of people. Just sort of everything's like, it's crazy season for Laravel at the moment. Like with Laravel 11 being released, Laravel India coming out, the hubbub about Laracon US, which is also looking like it's going to be pretty wild. Is that a sellout yet? It's be close to a sellout, surely.
Close to. I think they're at 800 at the moment.
Could you imagine doing a conference with 800 people, Michael?
No. I can imagine not doing one very intentionally.
Yeah, so we'll have some cool people on. I think we've actually 3 people might have reached out to us, which is really cool. If anyone else wants to come on and talk about their story, you reach out to either of us, and we'll happy to speak to you, because then you're not listening to me rabbit on about my hustle constantly. Yeah, links in the show notes. Reach out to me if you want to like coach me on how to write in the world.
English good.
But yeah, until next time, I've been Greg, and
I have been Michael. And we will see you next time. Bye.
See ya.